Hi everyone, it's David here at That Tea Fanatic, and today we are going to do white tea. And we're going to do specifically straight white tea. It's a very cold one here today in the northeast of the United States. We're going to be getting some snow later on today, so that's exciting. So I figured I'd sit down and do a little bit of a video on white tea. Straight tea doesn't get a lot of love, especially in the video world, so I figured I would do some of my favorite white teas that I have in my collection currently. And I think I'm going to do a little video series, inspiration from a friend that told me to do this, or gave me the suggestion to do this anyway. And I think I'm going to go through and do all the different tea types. So I use this as an inspiration, my little David's tea sampler that has every single tea type. So white, green, oolong, black pu'er, Monte Ribes, and herbals. And I'm going to do all of my favorite straight teas that I have in my collection. So I figured let me just show that because it shows each collection's in there. I do have one that I just finished brewing, which is a really, really unique tea called Zamba Pearls, but we're getting to that in a minute. So let's talk about white tea. So white tea usually comes from China, and that's kind of where it originated from, but it is grown in other places around the world, as I'll show you momentarily. White tea is one of the most delicate teas in the tea world because of how it's picked and when it's picked. It's usually picked from the top two buds of the tea plant. It's picked when it's very young. It can usually be picked either just the silver needle or the tea leaf before it blooms into an actual full tea leaf, or it can be picked when it's bloomed, which is usually called Bai Mu or Bai Mu Dan. So just a little bit of fun little tea terms when it comes to that. So speaking of that, we're going to do one of my favorites, which is the Bai Hao, or just the leaves, or excuse me, just the needles. So they're really neat because they're super light and delicate. Like I said, picked from the top two buds of the tea plant, picked before the tea leaf is actually bloomed. And it's a little needle. The really cool thing about it is when you do purchase them, if you do purchase them, they've got a little downy coating, almost like a feathery type substance on the outside, which protects it from the weather before it blooms and matures, and it can be protected on its own from that. And what the tea leaf looks like after it blooms, the white tea, are these beautiful, huge leaves, very, very green, very, very young leaves. I was just going to say something and I forgot what I was going to say. Never mind. Anyway, so tea leaves before the Bai Hao and the Bai Mu is after their. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Processing. So it's also the white tea is also processed the least of any teas. It literally just picked and dried. Very seldom does oxidation occur when you're talking about white teas, with the exception of one that I'm going to show you in a minute here. Sorry, I just need to take a sip. It is quite cold today. So the Bai Hao, this one I have here is actually from David's Tea. It is the Bai Hao Yanzhen. I have it in my cool little UV protected glass jar here, which they sold a year or two ago. But the Bai Hao Yanzhen is very, very nice and light and delicate. Very short steeping time, usually 2 to 3 minutes tops. For this, I usually do a about 170, 175 degree temperature, so much lower than you would a black or pu'er or tea. It has very, very light, sweet flavor to it, very, very delicate, but absolutely delicious. It's great to mix with herbals if you want to add a little bit of punch of caffeine without really changing the flavor of the herbal. That's a great thing to add into that. The next one I have is Royal Pai Mu Dan, if I remember correctly. And this one actually is from Tea Lyra tea. It is absolutely just gorgeous, beautiful giant tea leaves here. Again, very, very light and delicate. It has a very crisp flavor. This one I do same, about 175 degrees for about 2 minutes. It's just absolutely light and fluffy and delicious. So I do recommend trying that out. It's not very expensive. The Bai Hao is a little pricey, If you do have the David C rewards, I recommend using the rewards on that. But it is a little pricey, but it is quite worth it. You don't need to use it, a lot of it, and a little bit goes a long way because it is so light and fluffy. The next one I have was a limited edition tea from a few years ago from David's Tea called the Royal White Peony. And this is kind of similar to the Pai Mouton, but not quite. The leaves aren't as bloomed as the Pai Mouton. So the peony usually refers to the bud, the needle, and a little bit of the leaf. So it is kind of partially bloomed, but not fully bloomed, but it is a mixture of the two, of the needle and the leaf. Again, very light, crisp, and delicate, a little bit of vegetal notes underneath it, which is quite delicious. And the last two I have here are very, very unique. The one that I'm sipping on right now is probably one of my all-time favorite David's teas, definitely in my top 5 of all time. It's called Zamba Pearls. Now, this one does not come from China. It actually comes from Malawi. And it is a hand-rolled Malawian white tea. And like I said before, white teas are usually not oxidized. These are actually lightly oxidized, which is why they're a little bit darker than the other teas. This comes from a very small free trade tea plantation. It is hand rolled by a team of fairly paid workers of only 14 women. It is really, really cool. I remember reading a huge article about it when this first came out. And these tea leaves are just beautiful. They're all rolled into this little bundle. Kind of looks like a little mummy almost. They're absolutely beautiful. When brewed up, it has a beautiful golden color. It is slightly vegetal, has notes of like artichoke and fresh snow peas in it, and it absolutely is delicious. It can stand up to a couple of different, a couple steepings as well. You can re-steep this one probably another two times or so. A little bit of extra time on the second and third steep. And I just absolutely love it. If you can get your hands on some of this, I know there's some other places that might sell the Zamba Pearls. If you can find them, I definitely recommend grabbing them. They are absolutely phenomenal. Oh, so good. And the last I have was another unique tea that David's Tea released as a limited edition a couple of years ago. It's called Moonlight White. So it's a white pu'er. What does that mean? So it's a tea that traditionally is grown to be a pu'er, but they pick it like a white. So it has these really cool coloring to it. So like on one side, it looks like a white tea, and then the other side, it looks like a pu'er because it's dark. So hence the moonlight part. One side's dark, one side's light. And it is just phenomenal. And I can't remember what David's Tea calls the description on it, but I do know, it doesn't say much on there, but I remember it being very, last time I had it, just like a sweet, smooth, honey-like finish to it. So it's definitely not earthy like a pu'er, but it's not quite as light as a white. It's kind of somewhere in the middle. Definitely unique. I don't think you can find this out there anywhere else. You might definitely try to search for it, but it really is cool tea. It does have some of the buds in there as well as some of the leaves. It is absolutely phenomenal. So this is my little mini highlight on white teas. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please let me know, or any comments. And the next, I'll probably be doing green teas on my next little series of straight teas. So I hope you enjoyed it, and hope you all have a great day. Stay safe and healthy. Bye for now.